We're gonna combine these stories, my friends. We don't just randomly talk about China partying and then talk about the money supply. Same story. First, let me show you this from CNBC. Dollar sucked into downward spiral by U.S. twin deficits from December 30th. They're saying the dollar is in a downward spiral. Bitcoin skyrocketing. It hit $35,000 for a Bitcoin. People are buying up like crazy, and there's concerns. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but people are saying that the Bitcoin's not going to go back down. There's not going to be a correction. It's undervalued at this point because the U.S. dollar is being printed like crazy. Which brings me to this really strange story, which seems maybe not to be related. Chinese billionaire Jack Ma vanishes. What happened? Quite simply, they say, at the Bund Summit in Shanghai on the 24th of October, Ma criticized the lawmakers that enforce global financial regulations, the Basel Accord, saying they were like an old people's club. According to the Times, Ma, a Communist Party member, said, the Basel Accords are like an old people's club. We can't use yesterday's methods to regulate the future. The billionaire said the Basel Accords framework stifled opportunities for young people in developing nations and that regulatory rules suppressed innovation. Before the summit, Ant Group was preparing for a $37 billion initial public offering and would have valued the company at more than $300 billion. After the summit, things changed. China cracked down on regulations, smothering Ant Group's IPO, et cetera, et cetera. I'll just put it this way, the very simple issue here. A lot of people are saying this is crazy about Jack Ma. When you criticize the global financial infrastructure and you have the power to actually make change, bad things happen to you. I can say Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, not for the same reasons, obviously, but Jack Ma comes out and starts talking smack about financial regulators for global economics, and he's gone.
Yeah, and this is not just one of the richest people in China. This is one of the world's richest people that was disappeared and is missing since October. He was kicked out and edited out of his own TV show. He was edited out from many websites, and no one knows where he's been. And we have to understand, China has a history of disappearing very prominent economic figures. Yep. There's Ren Zhang. I'm saying it very wrong, but he was a real estate mogul who criticized China's handling of the coronavirus. There's Yao Jinghao, who was an asset manager, also disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and no one knows what happens to these people. And a lot of people need to understand China uses a lot of kind of mystery. They hide a lot of information, so your kind of imagination plays the worst fears on you. And this has been a tactic that the Chinese have been using for a very long time.
So are these people that had like shows? They were media
shows,
figures?
Businesses. I mean, if you look at Alibaba, that's one of the
Chinese
biggest.
Trump.
Yeah. We're looking at
Really?
one of the biggest companies, not just in China, but the world. And he's the head guy. He criticized their central bank. He criticized regulations because obviously if you want a free-flowing economy, you can't have a central bank. You can't have all these regulations. You can't have the government deciding what is best. You should let the market decide. He criticized that. And because of that, the Chinese president didn't like that.
Sounds
Well,
familiar.
we don't know exactly what happened to him,
We
but
don't.
he's missing from his show.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we can
Other
say
people-
this. We can say this.
But he's
That-
missing
wait,
from
wait.
public life. He hasn't been
Right.
seen since October.
Right, but I'm saying, but the evidence here is this: you can't say that there's some, global New World Order or Bilderberg group that's causing crises, but you can say that when crises hit on a global scale, very important people oftentimes can disappear, find themselves losing everything that matters to them, and the entire world sees some sort of structural change that seems to benefit the wealthy and the ruling class. It seems to screw over the middle class. And then at the end of this crisis, there seems to be new organizations that come up, let's just say like NGOs or even new banking systems or unified trade agreements that seem to help fix and bring it all together, and power gets centralized into people who are not elected.
Exactly. One of the things that China Uncensored said when they were on this show that really sticks out to me is the fact that it's our participation and the U.S. establishment propping up China that makes them as powerful as they are right now. And it's literally American elites that are causing China to be as powerful on the world stage. And if it wasn't for them, they wouldn't exist and they wouldn't be as powerful.
Our economy is being crushed right now, and they say they're moving at the timeline for China's economy to overtake ours. So I don't think any of these people really care. You know why? A lot of them probably invested in companies that are doing production in China or things of that nature.
Probably. They,
Nike.
They
Absolutely.
did.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys something. You ever think about how banking works?
Like on a global scale, or what do you mean?
No, just let me tell you. So let's say you got $1,000 in the bank, right? And then
Stimulus
you write a check to a friend who then cashes that in their bank, and it becomes available immediately. Did that one bank take the $1,000 from your account, physical cash, put it in a cart, wheel it down the street to the other bank and then hand it to them so that money is now in that bank? Or is it literally just a number in a computer that could be changed? So I got a crazy story. One of the craziest things I've ever seen that made me like, go, what? I had a friend who was, we went to a bank because he was negative. His account went negative. And so he was like, I got to go complain because there was a transaction that was doubled on accident. And that put me negative, and then it threw everything out of whack because then he got charged $35, and then his next deposit didn't, get him out of it, and then he got charged again, and it kept going negative. We walk into this bank, and there's a guy sitting behind this desk, and he's just like an older middle-aged dude. This is in Chicago, and he pulls up the dude's account, and I swear I don't know what he was showing us. Maybe it was a trick, maybe it wasn't real, but he shows his account as negative like $300, and he just erased the negative sign and says, "How does that look?" And then we were like, "What?" And he was like, "Looks good, right?" And he was like, "I guess." And he was like, "Get out of here, kid." And then he was like, "What?" And then he checked his account, and he was positive what he was negative. I don't know what that was or what went down. It was weird to me, but I will tell you one thing. The next week when we were skating downtown, the bank was closed. Like, they shut down that branch. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I wonder if this dude knew he was getting laid off and was like, I don't care, and just typed numbers into his account to make the money be there. But I'm like, how do they verify that? How do they know? Like, it's the craziest thing.
It's not like Bitcoin when you have a transaction and a limited amount of something. It's literally someone going on the computer and just pressing 0. That's it. That's our financial system explained and of course, whenever there's, the military industrial complex, big pharma, the medical industrial complex coming in for their gibs, of course that machine's turned on right away. People come in there for, health and human services or something to help out the common, whatever the common good is, or whatever the term people, or whatever people socially want to improve, life. No, sorry, the machine doesn't work then, which is absolutely ridiculous.
So
that we're going through this.
What I was thinking is like, is all of our money is basically digital. Has anyone really thought about how Bitcoin has a ledger with crypto that secures it, and banks just kind of write a number down?
Well, what shocked me, I think, the most was, I remember I was watching a documentary on the 2008 financial crisis, and I might have the numbers a little bit wrong, but I think they said that $2 trillion disappeared from the global economy. They used the phrase disappeared. And I remember looking that up because I know that I think we lost like $9.8 trillion overall in like home value in the world. This has to do with, just like fluctuations of the values of homes. The money didn't disappear. This isn't changing ledgers. But like, obviously they didn't burn cash reserves or like melt down gold and just turn it into rings. Yeah, you're going, well, how do you just take $2 trillion when the average person in the world makes less than like $1 a day?
Yeah.
What do you mean it disappeared?
Well, after the 2008 housing crisis, the Federal Reserve engaged in secret bailouts where they were literally printing money and giving it digitally to foreign banks. I actually confronted Ben Bernanke on the largest kind of bailout in recorded human history that no one even talks about, and he had a fit about it. He literally tried to rip my microphone away from me because I asked him, how does it feel knowing that you committed one of the largest bailouts and no one even knows about it? And we're talking about, with a T, trillions of dollars that literally go from one hand to another hand. Yes, we're here now, and look at the national debt. Look at the price of common household goods of what they are now compared to what they were just even 50 years ago.
Look, man, I was talking to, so we're looking at like crazy farmland, crazy open space in West Virginia. And I'm hearing from these agents, they're like, we can't keep inventory. Mm-hmm. The moment like land pops up in West Virginia, gone. The market's increasing like crazy. The value of homes is going up outside of New York and outside of these big cities. Property values are starting to go up like crazy because nobody wants to live in these cities anymore. But it's like I was saying earlier, I think it was Chris who was saying this, that the things wealthy people can buy right now are hyperinflating because the demand for these goods is high for several reasons. One, get away from the cities. Two, they're getting rid of their money. They're getting rid of US dollars. They're buying gold. They're buying Bitcoin like crazy. Why did Bitcoin double, almost triple in value in a month? Mm-hmm. Now, people will say, oh, you hear from all these Bitcoin deniers where they're like, it's just it's a scam. And it's like, dude, people have confidence in it retaining its value enough to where it was going for like $13,000 a month and 2 months ago. And now it's at $30,000. So I'll tell you this, you can look at your Bitcoin transaction history and you can go back to, like, for those of you that have Bitcoin. I've had Bitcoin for a long time, and someone sent me like a couple dollars worth of Bitcoin a long time ago. It's now worth like $200. It's just you look at it, that's crazy. People are concerned. I think here's what I was telling people. What are the rich people who have connections doing right now? They're fleeing cities. They're buying up property like crazy, and they're getting off the U.S. dollar. When CNBC says the dollar is in a downward spiral and Bitcoin is through the roof, I hope y'all are paying attention to what we're potentially facing. So I'll put it this way. You know, I've had people say to me, we did a promo start the show with the Safe and Ready Meals thing, right? This is the safeandreadymeals.com. It is emergency food supply. And so people always look at, I got a bunch of it just because I bought it, whatever. And they're like, man, are you prepping? Like, you think the end is coming? And I'm like, I don't know if I would tell people I think the end is nigh. Like, the world's going to end and we're going to be walking around like it's Fallout, you know, the video game, and, you know, fighting zombies or anything like that. But when was the last time the U.S. printed, like trillions of dollars, like 2.6 trillion, and borrowed, 5 trillion more? When was the last time they added 60% of the money supply in 10 months? They've never done that. And what historically happens when money is mass produced and mass printed? You face hyperinflation or a collapse of the currency. And then you combine that with rich people buying up land like crazy and fleeing to places like Idaho, Iowa, Wyoming, West Virginia. And you need to ask yourself, why is it that people with the money are trying to spend their money as fast as possible? Why? Are you looking at this? So maybe everything's fine. The U.S. currency can't collapse. It's the petrodollar. Maybe. I'm not going to pretend I can see the future and I know, but I just look at, like, here's the way I tell people. When you're out, and you guys might get this. When you're out in a conflict, in a riot or whatever, or when you're in a big protest, and then you see a bunch of people start running in a certain direction, right? When I see that, I think they must have seen something, or someone did, and they're running for a reason. Sometimes it's a false alarm. Sometimes they run because they got scared of a car backfiring. But sometimes someone saw the National Guard or some riot cop aiming a beanbag gun or tear gas, and so they ran. I run the other direction. I run perpendicular to the direction they're running because I don't want to be in that crowd. But I look to the people and I see, where are they running to? It's almost like when you're like, a storm is about to come, you see all the birds leaving like they do in the movies. When the rich people are lighting their money up, like just getting rid of it as fast as possible, the U.S. is printing, trillions of dollars. Record money supply going up, and we're seeing land get sold like crazy. Like, don't you think at a certain point the people who have connections and are in the know are making the moves before you catch on because they want you holding the bag, or they don't want to be holding the bag when the drop comes?
Here's my thing. Okay, I'm a Christian. I don't know what you guys' view is on this, but I think I'm a huge believer in the end times and Bible prophecy, and I think that the Antichrist is a reality, and I think the agenda is obviously there.
And it's Joe Biden.
I thought it was Hillary Clinton.
I don't know who it's going to be, but one thing I will say is it's very interesting that with the advent of the Antichrist comes alongside of access through the mark of the beast that gives you access to a one world economy. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. I'm not saying it's a mask.
Yeah, they talk about a one world economy, a one world government. That's the end result of when you know the end times. When they push for that.
It actually talks about an economy?
Yeah.
What is it? What specifically does it say, though?
It says that the false prophet, you could pull it up, the false prophet will cause people to take the mark of the beast, which is 666, that will give them the ability to buy, sell, and trade. That will allow them to access the economy at the time. So I think it's interesting that we're seeing a lot of stuff with the masks. We're seeing a lot of stuff with
we're also
the
seeing specifically an mRNA vaccine, a new technological advancement, with many large institutions saying you won't be able to participate in our economy unless you have this vaccine. So that's also another aspect of this to kind of...
And in Bible prophecy, that's the final showdown. You won't be able to access the economy without the mark of the beast, which is an act of worship to pretty much Satan in the flesh.
Yeah, I was going to say, and even from my understanding, though I don't have it up here, it also comes up in Daniel and Isaiah. The whole point of biblical prophecy is that not only will people be trading and be given in marriage, world will be like it was, but the key thing is that the Antichrist is meant to bring the world together into one world government, and then he'll sit on the throne in the temple rebuilt on the Temple Mount in Israel, and he'll call himself God, and people will follow. And anybody who doesn't take whatever the mark is going to be seen as a threat and a danger to people, and they themselves are an enemy of society and deserve to be killed. So they start killing everyone who won't take the mark, which we don't know what that means. But I'm just saying, like, it's crazy though when you read Revelation and it says that this is what the end will look like, and then it describes how people will be.
I didn't know this. Revelation 13:17, that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. I didn't know that.
And it says that the 10 kingdoms will serve under him. And it specifically says, this is what's crazy, the 10 kingdoms of the world, whatever that means, will rise up and he'll come above them. And there's this idea that this is what he brings together. And this is why anybody that is coming against him is coming against the global order. And therefore, they are a threat to public safety. And that's why not only can they not buy, sell, and trade, but eventually they get beheaded. And they start beheading people who will not take the mark. And that's like, they'll kill you.
It's an act of worship to the Antichrist being your God. That's why you have to take it.
This was why a lot of right-wing Christians have always been against the kind of larger term New World Order. And when you look at them, there's always been a congregation of individuals who are church-going that usually do speak about this, you know, in a very large extent. So what you're saying makes absolutely sense from what I've been hearing for, you know, since the 90s. People are talking about this, and more when you look at current events, I mean, you can make many different correlations, you could have many different understandings, but I think what everyone here is saying is that these are definitely interesting times, to say the least, and definitely times that will test everyone in many important instances.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., so come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.